Hey everyone, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show. Going to be talking about a number of situations that are currently going on within the Catholic Church, including some restrictions to various Latin masses in the Diocese of Charlotte. The bishop just came out with an announcement very recently. And is going to be making some restrictions to a number of Latin Mass parishes and reducing them to one location at a Protestant building or worship center. So we're going to take a look at that situation, various people and how they're, digesting and reacting to the news. And I then want to take a look at a few statements on an unrelated situation from the excommunicated Archbishop Vigano, from Bishop Strickland, removed from ministry a few years ago by Pope Francis, and also Cardinal Provost, who's now Pope Leo XIV. I want to take a look also at a few other comments made by some noteworthy figures on social media, as well as the role that Cardinal Robert Sarah will play on July 25th through 26th at the Shrine of St. Anne in France, a role that Pope Leo XIV has just given to him. So kind of a wide range of subjects that I want to discuss briefly with you all. So before we dive in, let me ask you all to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. A lot of viewers still are not subscribed. I need y'all to help me change that. Let's go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also hit that bell for notifications so you know when I go live. And while you're at it, please go ahead and hit the like button too. That also helps tremendously with the algorithm. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in and let's take a look at what the Bishop of Charlotte has said. This is from a letter from yesterday, May 23rd. I'm going to share it on my screen so we can take a look at it. Y'all know I like to share with y'all primary sources. It's a little fuzzy. Text is kind of small, but you can still see it nonetheless, hopefully. This is from the Office of the Bishop, May 23rd, signed by the Bishop of Charlotte, North Carolina, completing the implementation of Traditionis Custodes in the Diocese of Charlotte. You remember Traditionis Custodes is a document from Pope Francis, somewhat reversing Summorum Pontificum, which itself was somewhat of a reversal of previous papal acts, which themselves were somewhat of a reversal of other previous papal acts. So Traditionis Custodes was released by Pope Francis for a number of reasons. Pope Francis wanted to see more uniformity in the Roman Rite rather than having two forms, the extraordinary form and ordinary form, just kind of all over the place. He was hoping to kind of restore the Roman Rite to one form, as well as he was attempting to deal with what he estimated to be a weaponization of the Latin Mass and the extraordinary form in some parishes. So he didn't restrict the Latin Mass in all cases. You still have institutes and priestly societies devoted specifically to that. He didn't touch them, and he still allowed for it in some parish cases, but he did significantly restrict access to it at the parish level. That was Traditionis Custodes. So now this document by the bishop is completing the implementation of Traditionis Custodes, like actually implementing it within the Diocese of Charlotte. He says in July of 2021, Pope Francis published his motu proprio Traditionis Custodes, which restored limits on the celebration of the traditional Latin Mass in the Universal Church to promote ecclesial communion. And notice restored limits, because again, prior to Summorum Pontificum, there already had been by Paul VI and John Paul II some limits. Benedict came and reversed that, and then Pope Francis came and reversed that. And so there's been, the Roman Church has been kind of back and forth on the question of this and the liturgical reform, since Vatican II. Okay. My predecessor, Bishop Peter Jugis, requested and received from the Holy See an extension for the Diocese of Charlotte in order to arrange an orderly transition to the new instructions. So Pope Francis allowed for the Diocese of Charlotte to continue to celebrate the Latin Mass as an extension while they prepare to roll out Traditionis Custodes. So it was kind of a provisional temporary thing. That temporary extension expires this year. And then my question is, did he apply for an extension, the local bishop, or did he just say, well, okay, it expired and I'm not going to ask Rome for an extension? He says that temporary extension expires this year, and I'm now ready to finish the diocese's implementation of the norms established in Traditionis Custodes. Effective July 8th of 2025, the traditional Latin Mass will no longer be celebrated at parishes in the Diocese of Charlotte. In accordance with Traditionis Custodes, Article 3, Paragraph 2, I am designating a chapel in the diocese where faithful adherents may gather for the celebration of the Eucharist on Sundays and holy days of obligation using the Roman Missal of 1962. Now, the chapel is like 40 minutes away from some parishes, from what I'm saying, people on the local ground saying. It's also at a Protestant worship community service place. I don't know what you call it. Faith fellowship service community. I don't know what they're calling their churches these days. This is the location though. All right. So this is where evidently the Latin Mass community can drive 40 minutes or so or longer to celebrate a Latin Mass. Okay, and this is after putting a lot of money into various parishes to build up their Latin Mass community, from what I understand. Those who are interested in participating in the Eucharistic celebration in this form will remain active members of their current parishes, where they may continue receiving their sacraments. It's my heartfelt desire and prayer that this implementation of Traditionis Custodes will further promote the concord and unity of the Church among the people of God in the Diocese of Charlotte, so that as Jesus prayed for his Father, we may all be one, signed by the bishop. So he's wanting to promote unity, but will it be unity that he gets? Or will this create further division and tension? Well, having looked at a lot of people who are evidently part of this community online, it looks like they do not feel at all that this is unifying. So, even if the argument is, well, we're trying to unify the Roman Rite, and so that everybody's celebrating one form of the Roman Rite, and therefore we're liturgically more uniform as a rite. If this is the way to go about it, it seems like it's an odd way to go about it, because it's an attempt to promote unity by disunity. And so I don't know if that goal of unity is going to be achieved. I mean, in all honesty, it seems like actually this might exacerbate and further aggravate divisions in the community rather than bring about unity. And I don't know if the bishop was aware of that. Maybe he was aware of that and said, I'm going to do it anyway. Just kind of want these people to go away. Or maybe he honestly thought in good faith, like, yeah, this is a really good idea. This is going to unify everybody, and doesn't realize that it's probably going to backfire. I don't know where the bishop's at on that one. Only God can judge his heart. But I think practically the notion that this will bring about unity, whether this came from a good place and good intentions or from bad motives, either way, the net result, I don't think, is going to be unity. Look, maybe I'll be wrong about that, right? But I doubt very seriously this is going to bring about unity in the Diocese of Charlotte. It sounds like this is going to create a lot of division. And that, already I'm saying, again, for people in the community in Charlotte saying that and expressing great deal of concern. And, you have to also ask, like, okay, was there really a need for this in the diocese? Were there people who are weaponizing it? From everything that I'm seeing online, the people in Charlotte are saying, there really wasn't any kind of weaponization of the Latin Mass going on. People just have been appreciating that form, have been attracted to it. There wasn't any kind of weaponization where this is used to say, we're better than you guys, or we get more grace than you guys, or Vatican II is heresy or something like that. So let me maybe even read to you a few reactions that I just, came across on my social media here. I did kind of bookmark a few of them from just kind of at random here. Here's one that really did catch my attention. You know what? He might actually have a point. This person says the blessing of homosexuals? Question mark. We have to be super nuanced so that we don't push anyone away from the faith. Trads who want to attend a mass to help their spiritual life? Question mark. We have to be super harsh on them to make sure they don't have any schismatic tendencies. While I affirm the church has the authority to make both these pastoral decisions, there is a great inconsistency here. The person says 0 people will have less schismatic tendencies from this now anyway. From this anyways. It will just further push many trads away from the church. I think he's probably right. And this is what I kind of said initially whenever Traditionis came out. I understand the underlying reasons for it. I understand what the intentions were. But as I pointed out, first of all, is this going to be executed properly? I doubt it. Second of all, it's so inconsistent to address this issue, but not address pride masses or offer similar restrictions on abuses in the Novus Ordo. I've pointed out since the first day Traditionis Custodes was released. I've been telling y'all this. I've been consistent. I've been telling y'all. I understand what the intention was here, but this wasn't the way to go about doing it. This wasn't it. This is not it. And you can't even begin to tackle this issue without first tackling pride masses and Novus Ordo abuses. Tackle that first, and I promise you actually won't have these other issues. You won't have people weaponizing the Latin Mass. For some who do, not everybody does. For the few or maybe even the many who do, you won't have that because that's a symptom of the problem. They're only doing that because they're reacting against abuses in the Novus Ordo. So if you take care of that underlying issue that was aggravating the situation, most people would stop weaponizing the Latin Mass at that point. And they would probably actually just start attending Roman Rite parishes that are ordinary form and are done well if you give them a better alternative. That's what I've said since day one. You know, it doesn't seem that the Vatican is really listened to my advice or anything on that one. But you know, that was one comment I thought was interesting. Okay, yeah, you know, when it comes to gays in the church, you have to like really be gentle and sensitive, and we want to be welcoming and accompanying and journeying with and synodal and all the buzzwords, right? But when it comes to, you know, the Latin Mass community, heavy hand. Well, look, there's something to be said about there's a need for consistency here. I understand these are different communities, these are different problems. I get it, but you want to show that you're consistent and that you're also not being, you're not targeting one group as opposed to another. Because if you do that, you're just going to make people angry and resentful and bitter. And I think that's what the Vatican has basically done at this point. Okay. One random person says, "May this bishop incur the wraths of St. Peter and Paul." I guess he's writing a papal bull now. Patrick Coffin, the Diocese of Charlotte is ending the Latin Mass in parish churches, a wound to the heart of tradition. The Mass of the Ages is not nostalgia. It is theology in action, reverence incarnate, the sacred made visible. Suppressing it does not build unity, it silences continuity. You know, regardless of the need for catechesis here and whether or not this is a Mass of the Ages and if that's maybe a misnomer, putting all that to the side, obviously, this is not bringing about unity with this group, right? This is just bringing further division. One person is dropping the news, and then they say one chapel, which accommodates 345 people, and it's a Protestant chapel, has been designated for the celebrations of the Latin Mass on 2 Sundays a month and holy days. Those who are interested in participating will remain active. Bishop Martin, who has been in Charlotte since 2024, will host a meeting about the new chapel on June 24th in the hall of the chapel property. Next person says, the next time you hear about the need for accompaniment, listening, and tolerance, remember this. So again, you know, is this coming across as some kind of unifying document and move on part of the bishop? No, it's just going to come across as divisive, and it will be divisive, and it's just going to backfire on the bishop. Another person says the persecution continues. Another person who actually is a commenter of this channel and has supported this channel many, many times says this: Dear Holy Father, I'm in the Diocese of Charlotte, one of the most vibrant churches in the U.S. Our new bishop has just severely restricted the Latin Mass here. This will crush our growth. Help, Holy Father. These restrictions have gone too far. Please restore Pope Benedict's vision. So they're calling on Pope Leo XIV to undo this. Another person says, I'm in Charlotte for a little context. 4 to 5 Sunday parishes for the TLM, high attendance, priest, and seminary, all on board. Never a problem here. So they're saying, look, we've never had a problem with like weaponizing the liturgy. Now, I don't know. I don't know what the situation looks like there, ground level. I'll take their word for it, right? I don't know what's going on with the Latin Mass community in Charlotte, one way or another. But if somebody's from there and they're saying they've never had issues with weaponizing it, hey, I'll take their word for it. So this person says, never a problem here. Bishop has even has gone after the Reverend Novus Ordos before this. Now wanting it in Mooresville, which is outside the city, and properly thinking nobody will travel and it will die a slow death, and sending it if the address is correct to this location. And then they show it's that Protestant worship service chapel. Another person says, one of the fastest growing, newly wealthy, like just below New York City income, states is now relegating its traditional Latin masses to 40 minutes from the Episcopal See, this time a Protestant church. So yeah, those are just some of the comments that I came across among many. Almost all of them overwhelmingly concerned, critical. In fact, I didn't see anybody who thought, hey, this is a good idea. I didn't see, especially from Charlotte, I definitely didn't see anybody from Charlotte say, yeah, this was sorely needed, kind of a thing. So again, whatever the intention on part of the bishop was, whether it was good or evil, the letter that talks about how this is going to promote the concord and unity of the church, that's already a miserable failure and a belly flop, to use Michael Scott language. So yeah, this is just wild stuff. It'll be interesting to see if Pope Leo does anything about this, if he intervenes, or if he just kind of lets it go and continues to allow kind of local bishops to restrict the Latin Mass in their territories as moderators of the liturgy. We'll see. We'll see. That's what I have so far in that, but I got a lot of other stuff for y'all. A lot of other stuff. Let's see if we can go through some of it together. Let me see where I want to transition to next. Okay, let's go ahead and go to Vigano, right? Excommunicated Archbishop, excommunicated because he said that Francis wasn't the Pope. Back when Francis was the Pope, automatic excommunication according to the Code of Canon Law. I told that to y'all in advance a year before the Vatican confirmed that he was excommunicated. On the day that they confirmed it, literally 1 year prior to that, on the day, I came on YouTube, told y'all Vigano's automatically excommunicated himself. Vast majority of people didn't believe me. Vatican came out 1 year later to the day, confirmed exactly what I said. Was excommunicated by the church by himself. Vatican didn't excommunicate him. According to the Vatican, Vigano excommunicated himself. All right, so, he had already kind of been going down a certain trajectory, very critical of the Catholic Church, of the papacy, of the magisterium, had already kind of been going down a sedevacantist route, finally went ahead and basically declared himself to be a sedevacantist, and eventually Rome again confirmed that, and he's continued to kind of go in that direction, even having been excommunicated from the Catholic Church, right? There's been no reversals or changes on his part. He's just been continuing down that trajectory. It also appears that he has been reordained to be reordained under Vatican II ordination services to make sure that his ordination or consecration is legit. And so that was a whole topic we had already previously discussed as well. All right. So Vigano has just come out and is saying something interesting. And he actually has a point, even though I'm coming from literally the exact opposite reason for agreeing with some of this, and the exact opposite end of the spectrum on this. We have the same evaluation on a few points here. That's kind of weird, right? The day I never thought I would agree with Vigano on anything, but here you go. Here's a day where I actually could say, well, I kind of agree with him, but for completely different reasons. Let's go through it. Okay. All right, Vigano. It is normal and humanly understandable that more than a decade of open persecution of Catholics by the one who presented himself as their pope would lead many of us to desire a truce, hoping that our Lord would give his church, if not a new Pius X, at least another Benedict XVI. But this legitimate desire, certainly animated by good feelings and love for the church, cannot transform itself into a new virtual reality in which, even against all evidence, everything must necessarily be read as a confirmation of what we would like and not of what is really happening. I got to agree with Vigano, okay? He's saying what I've been saying, but for very different reasons. What he's saying is, y'all are interpreting everything from Pope Leo. Those of you who are critical of Pope Francis, y'all are interpreting everything from Pope Leo as a good sign, but in reality, they're all the same things that you previously interpreted under Pope Francis critically. Now, he's saying that so that people will hate Pope Leo. I'm saying that not so that people will hate Pope Leo, but to point out, why did you guys hate Pope Francis, but you love Pope Leo for the same thing? You're just being inconsistent, and you just stirred up a lot of confusion and dissent for years. Why didn't you do this before? Why didn't you do that under Francis? There would have been a lot less confusion if you had just been consistent. But to flip-flop like this, it seems dishonest, right? He's calling it out, but he's calling it out for a very, very different reason than me. But he's got a point. I mean, I agree with him, but for different reasons. Okay. We cannot build for ourselves a virtual church with a virtual papacy that we love and serve in a consoling but unreal fiction. The confirmation of a notorious heretic to the Cathedral of St. Gallen, which I was the one who pointed out, the first person on social media to point out to y'all and to go over the background of this pro-homosexual, pro-contraception, and pro-women's ordination and pro-gay marriage priest who has just now made the bishop of St. Gallen, Switzerland, the subject of numerous conspiracy theories that Vigano was partly responsible for spreading, as was Taylor Marshall, one of his biggest supporters. And you know, again, as I covered in that stream, some people say, well, his hands were tied because of the way the election process is done and because of an agreement with the civil authority there. And I pointed out to people that that just doesn't really hold any water at the end of the day, because the Pope, due to papal supremacy, can break that agreement immediately and can say, to hell with your appointment. I'm going to give you someone who's actually Orthodox. So the Pope is not bound and should not be bound to these kinds of agreements if they're going to be hijacked and weaponized this way to put some pro-homosexual in there. That's when the Pope needs to step in and say, no, I'm not agreeing to this. In the same way that if I tell my kids, hey kids, whatever you want me to buy you to eat today, just let me know. I'll get it for you. And if they come to me and say, I want you to buy me these poison mushrooms, you think I'm going to say, yeah, well, I don't want to give you poison mushrooms, but I guess I got to agree to it because I did tell you I'll get you anything you want. No, I'm going to say, to hell with that. I am going to break my agreement. I'm not buying you poison mushrooms. You can have regular mushrooms. Get you some portobello. Right? A good father would say, no, I'm not doing that. So please don't sell me this bill of goods trying to tell me the Pope couldn't do anything about it. Yes, he can, according to the dogma of papal supremacy. I'm not buying it. Be that as it may. He's not pointing out what I've pointed out about St. Gallen, but for a very different reason. The appointment of a nun as secretary of the dicastery, I also did a whole show on that. For institutes of consecrated life and societies of apostolic life. The critics of Pope Francis hated when Pope Francis did that, but they give a pass when Pope Leo does it. And I'm just saying, okay, if you gave a pass to Pope Leo for it, all right, that's fine. But why didn't you do that for Pope Francis? That's my point. His point is, but wait, you're giving a pass to Pope Leo for doing this heresy. He did a heresy by doing this. And you gave a pass to Pope Leo, but you didn't give that pass to Pope Francis, and you need to stop giving the pass to Leo's heresies. That's where he's coming from with it. He did a heresy, mugs and t-shirts coming soon. Hang in there, y'all. All right. Okay. In line with the appointment of a prefectus by Bergoglio, the repeated references to the heretical documents of his predecessors into Vatican II. Okay, I've pointed this out also. It's just like y'all were saying Vatican II taught heresy. And Okay, so you got Taylor Marshall. It says Vatican II teaches the heresy of Pelagianism and Nostra Aetate, right? Called Vatican II out for that. Said that's heresy, Vatican II. Y'all remember I did that show showing that? Okay, but then flips around and praises Pope Leo while he's literally almost every single day quoting from Nostra Aetate and affirming it. Literally the same part that Marshall said was heresy, Leo's affirming, but Leo gets a pass and a praise. But Vatican II got condemned previously on the other pontificate by the same guy. And so my point is just be consistent. Now, if you've changed your theological position and you don't believe Vatican II taught heresy anymore, then just come out and say, hey, I don't believe that. Okay, fair enough. Great. If you think now Vatican II is orthodox, then just set the record straight is all I'm saying. But if you think Vatican II taught heresy, but then you're going to praise Pope Leo for reaffirming that alleged heresy, you're being inconsistent. So I'm calling out the inconsistency for a different reason. He's calling out the inconsistency because he thinks Vatican II's heresy. And then when Leo affirms that same quote unquote heresy, he gets a pass for it. He's right. If that were true, right? If Vatican II teaches heresy and you don't give Vatican II a pass, but you give Leo a pass for it, you are being inconsistent. He would be right on that point. The declarations on ecumenism and synodality, you remember how much Pope Francis got slammed for that and for the Abu Dhabi document? Yet Pope Leo just reaffirmed the Abu Dhabi document, the human fraternity document that Bishop Schneider told us is full of heresy. He just affirmed it or reaffirmed it, and they don't say a word about it. So Vigano's pointing that out as I pointed it out. And finally, the acceptance of climate fraud. A lot of people hated Pope Francis for his ecology positions. Leo's been very clear in reaffirming those ecology positions. We already knew he would, right? But yeah, he's saying there's inconsistency. All place Robert Francis Prevost in evident and disturbing continuity with his predecessor, and it will certainly not be the Stoll and Mosetta that will change reality. And this is where the truth is. People are superficial. I have to conclude so many Catholics are superficial. You know why? Because he came out looking a little bit more like Benedict. They thought everything has changed. Because he said a little Latin, everything has changed. Are you guys that superficial? You realize all of the modernists before Vatican II celebrated the Latin Mass, and they wore amazing vestments. Whether you use Latin or you use this or that vestment does not determine where you're at theologically. It could mean you're Orthodox. It could mean you're a modernist heretic. You could be anywhere in between as well. It doesn't really tell you anything. But they are so superficial that they thought, oh, this is just such a big change. It's really not. And I think they're starting to pick up on it, right? Okay. May looking at reality with supernatural eyes help us to recognize the deceptions of the evil one and push us today more than ever to place all our hope in Christ, the King and Pontiff, so that he may help and protect his church. By the way, there is no pontiff according to Vigano right now, so I don't know why he would even say that. May he who is the way, the truth, and life be our... Oh, I guess he means Jesus is the pontiff. I understand that. Okay, I misread him. That Jesus is the king and the pontiff. Okay, and the life be our guide in a rebellious world doomed to perdition, lies, and death. And then he's got all these people on with virtual masks on. Look, he's got a point, but for the wrong reasons. For the completely wrong reasons, he's got a point, though. Okay, he's reiterating same things that I've been saying, but for very different reasons. So it's a little interesting that I can actually agree with Vigano on this, but for, again, not for the same reasons as he is stating. Let me be very clear about that. I am not on Team Vigano, but a broken clock is right twice a day. So this is that one time where he actually has a point. Okay, so let's continue here. Shifting gears just slightly, but not that much. Okay. There is a post that Bishop Strickland just made in relation to this from Matt Gaspers. Matt Gaspers posts this. According to Vatican insider and Francis biographer Austin Ivory, Provost and Francis used to meet for 2 hours. So Pope Leo XIV and Pope Francis used to meet for 2 hours every Saturday morning in Casa Santa Marta, where Francis lived. Arthur Roche, the English cardinal, who heads and they say an arch nemesis of the TLM. Odd, because I actually think that he celebrates privately the Latin Mass every day, daily. He's Cardinal Roche. There's an interview where he celebrates the Latin Mass daily, privately. But they say he's an arch nemesis of the Latin Mass. Who heads the dicastery for divine worship, told me that Provost was without doubt Francis' closest collaborator in the Vatican during the past few years. So, in other words, they're saying, Leo XIV was like the closest guy to Pope Francis the last 2 years of the papacy. Pope Leo has made clear that he will continue to build the synodal church of which Francis dreamed, while likely reformulating some of the themes of Francis's pontificate in more Augustinian terms. I mean, I already told y'all he was going to do that before he was even elected. I just told y'all whoever is elected, they're going to continue Vatican II. They're going to continue Pope Francis's legacy. I've said that to y'all. And I also said there would be people questioning his papacy, and there already are, as I've shown to y'all over the last few days. Everything I've said coming true. Okay. So in reaction to this post, in reaction to that, we have a comment from Bishop Strickland, which I found interesting because, again, as we saw from Dr. Edmund Mazza yesterday, who doesn't believe that Leo is the Pope, Mazza was using Bishop Strickland's article from February saying that the cardinals are likely going to elect somebody who will not be the Pope because they're going to elect a heretic. And he argues that a heretic or even someone suspected of heresy can't be made Pope. So Strickland was sounding the alarms in February. And I told y'all at that time in February, get ready. It looks like these guys are going to reject whoever's elected. And if they don't do it immediately, I think, at the very least, they'll do it over a period of time. But my hunch was they would do it immediately. A few of them have, but the majority of them haven't. They have this delayed effect because they flipped it around and had tried to present Leo as a traditionalist. But that narrative is starting to fade away. So we saw from Edmund Mazza, he was quoting Bishop Strickland to say, see, Provost or Leo XIV is not the Pope. And I thought that's got to be interesting for Strickland to see that his own material is being used to claim that Leo XIV isn't the Pope. I wonder, is Bishop Strickland going to come out and say that Leo isn't the Pope? His own material is being used for that. Is he going to come out correct that, or is he going to come out and say, you know what, you're right? So I thought that's going to be interesting to see what Strickland and his followers say. So far, we don't have a clear answer on that one way or another. He hasn't come out and said, well, here's how you guys are wrong for using my material to say Leo isn't the Pope. He hasn't also come out and said Leo is not the Pope. He hasn't done either. So he hasn't been very clear on that. But he does call Pope Leo, and he says this is not good news. So he's starting to show some concerns about Pope Leo. Now, as soon as Pope Leo was elected, he was being interviewed by Glenn Beck, and he said, oh, this isn't good. This is the guy who removed me from ministry, right? This is a guy who's made a lot of decisions and appointments I don't agree with, McElroy and stuff like that. He was kind of concerned on day one, but y'all remember day two, they flipped the narrative. And all their concerns faded away, and they didn't explain sufficiently why. And they then started pretending he's a traditionalist. But that, again, is starting to fade away, and they're starting to go back to their original habits of being concerned and critical. Here, Bishop Strickland says this is not good news, that Pope Leo and Pope Francis were really close together. Okay. He says, we pray that Pope Leo realizes that the faithful do not need a whitewashed papacy garbed in traditional vestments. That's kind of a shot at Pope Leo. He's saying, yeah, maybe he wears traditional vestments, but we don't need a whitewashed papacy. So it's kind of a backhand slap at Leo XIV, a subtle jab there. We need a successor of Peter who will die for the church that Christ established, willing to be martyred like his predecessor. Um, so you can already start to see the facade is starting to slip, the mask is slipping a little bit, and then they're starting to go back into their critical habits. Um, and again, I think in time they'll be full on dead set against Pope Leo as they were with Pope Francis. They'll go back to that, but maybe even further this time, because I think last time they were holding out for the next Pope to come and save the day. And when that doesn't happen, they're going to crash out so hard that they're going to feel like, I can't wait another 10 to 20 years. I got to go back to the drawing board. And then they're going to start looking for other options outside of Catholicism. Okay, so there is that going on that I wanted to show to you. There's also a few other things here. Another one from Matt Gaspers. This one was just shared on Twitter from Big Modernism, Big Modernism's account. We are not bound to daily outrage, but we are bound to speak when error is crowned. And the faithful, especially priests, deserve clarity, not candlelight confusion. Leo XIV has retained the machinery of revolution. He has canonized its chief architect. I guess he means Pope Francis, because he said like 4 different times Pope Francis is in heaven. Technically not a canonization, but I think he's kind of exaggerating. He has done nothing to reverse the Latin Mass crackdown, and much to reinforce the modernist infrastructure. To say we are better off than under Francis may be true tactically, but truth is not tactical, it's doctrinal. And what Leo has confirmed, a bishop, a dicastery secretary, a non-Catholic saint, ecumenism, synodality, all of the stuff that I've pointed out to y'all in the last 2 weeks. Maybe they actually are watching my shows and seeing that I'm pointing out, hey guys, this is a little bit contrary to your narrative, FYI. Maybe they're paying attention. It's all enough to warrant every ounce of scrutiny we once directed at Francis. So he's saying, let's be consistent here. If we criticize Pope Francis for X, Y, and Z, then when Leo does X, Y, and Z, we need to criticize that. Now, I've pointed that out, but for a very different reason, just to say you guys are completely flip-flopping and being inconsistent. Now, my suggestion is go back to the drawing board and rethink your assumptions here. You say this is a revolution, you say all this is and this and that, but maybe rethink some of your assumptions there. But since they're not going to rethink their assumptions, okay, well, at least be consistent with yourself, right? I mean, it's kind of weird not to. It's somewhat dishonest and disingenuous not to. Okay, so he's pointing that out, right? And so others are starting to point this out and say, hey, guys, we're being inconsistent here, and saying, rather than maybe we need to rethink our criticisms of Pope Francis and Vatican II, instead they're saying, no, we don't need to rethink that. We just need to apply it to Pope Leo. Okay, so here's another one. Now, very different kind of message here, but I offer this to be balanced, to give a full picture of Pope Leo XIV. So some people love this, some people hate it. Either way, I just offer this to show balance, because I think it's important to know who a person is and get a balanced take on that person, regardless of what side and purpose it serves, and if this helps the trads or helps the progressives. Just show who a person is. Let the chips fall where they may. Okay, so in a move here from Pope Leo XIV, let me share my screen here. So Pope Leo XIV has appointed Cardinal Robert Sarah as his special envoy to preside over the July 25th and 26th liturgical celebrations at the Shrine of Saint Anne in France on the occasion of the 400th anniversary of the apparitions of Saint Anne. Okay, so basically he's kind of made him, an important liturgy guy for 2 days in France. For an important liturgy that's going on in France, he's kind of his right-hand man for 2 days. A kind gesture, a very kind gesture, very kind gesture. In light of the fact that Cardinal Robert Sarah has said the papacy teaches heresy. In light of the fact that he says that the way that Catholics distribute communion on the whole today is demonic and satanic, and a satanic plot against the church. In light of his accusation that Pope Francis's agenda to restrict the Latin Mass was satanic. For a person who has spoken in that kind of way about the papacy and the magisterium, it's a very kind gesture on part of Pope Leo XIV to even give him 2 days of having any kind of liturgical role here, especially given some of his controversial positions on the liturgy. So this is a nice gesture on his part. I think that this is a kind gesture. Some will think maybe not a good one because it rewards dissent. Others think it will be great because it shows that he's willing to forgive, or that he is willing to be friendly to the traditionalists. You know, there'll be different ways to look at it. Some will love it, some will hate it, some will be somewhere in between. But I wanted to offer this to y'all because I want y'all to see kind of a full picture of Pope Leo XIV. He's not this one-dimensional being. There's multiple sides to him. There's different perspectives that he has, and we need to get a full and balanced take on him. Okay, so I wanted to offer that as well so that you're informed. That's all I got for this show. I want y'all to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you appreciate the content of this channel, you want to see more stuff like this, I need to hear back from y'all. You need to show that to me in the comment section. Show that to me in the like button. Show that to me in the subscribe button. If I'm seeing that y'all are responding well to this, I'll continue to offer you this kind of material. Otherwise, I can, take the channel in a different direction and focus on other content if this is not benefiting people as a whole. So I need to hear back from y'all. Are you enjoying this? You appreciate it? Show it to me. Show me in the likes. Show me in the subscribes. Show me in the support on Patreon or channel membership. I need to get feedback from y'all, because if this isn't something that is helpful to people, there's plenty of other things I could be talking about that might be. So, all right, that's going to do it. See y'all. And by the way, let me make this change right now while I'm still live. Make Jimmy here a moderator. I have to do it while I'm live. At least I don't know a way to do it where I'm not live. So let me do that right now before I hit the end button. Let me get to the live stream and make him a mod. Let's see here. Well, is it going to let me? Add as moderator. Okay, I think you should be good to go. Father Brown says we're all in trouble now. Congrats, Jimmy. Yeah, you've certainly earned it, and I appreciate your support for the channel. Use the power wisely. See y'all so much. Thank y'all so much for supporting the channel. God bless.